What's up, guys? So I'm actually gonna speak a little bit, not too loud, because it's just gone midnight, and I was just like practicing. Actually, I was just practicing speaking in front of the camera, and I thought, man, I feel inspired, so I actually want to make a video here. And so this video is going to be about equanimity, and equanimity, as is defined, is the ability, the capacity to have a calm mind, especially under difficult situations. And I'm going to tie that into happiness. I'm going to tie that into something that you encounter daily, and you encounter also weekly, monthly, uh, to varying degrees, because you can have this on a small scale and on a massive scale. And what I'm talking about is getting what you want. So Michael Singer talks about getting what you want, and he says happiness is very simple. The human model currently of happiness is I get what I want and I'm happy, and when I don't get what I want, I'm unhappy. And so I want to go into that a little bit. And so basically, when you get what you want, typically you're happy, and when you don't get what you wanted, typically you're unhappy. And you can experience this to varying, like I said, on different scales. It could be something very small and it could be something massive. And typically when we get what we want, we're happy. And when we don't get what we want, we're unhappy. And the unconscious assumption is that when we don't get what we want, we lose. We don't really think of it like that, but that's the unconscious assumption. We wanted something, we get it, and we feel, fuck yeah, I got it. And it's kind of like we've won. And when we don't get what we want, the unconscious assumption is I lost. Like I got the outcome that was second best. And we could feel like that, or we could feel a lot worse, depending on the scale of the thing that we wanted. And so what I'd like to suggest is that, and I want to say also, I'm not claiming to be perfect with this by any means. I'm practicing it. So that's why I'm making a video about it. I'd like to suggest that whatever happens, whether you get what you want or you don't get what you want, either way, you win. If you get what you want, great. You got what you want. The benefits are obvious. And at the same time, if you don't get what you want, you win also. You just don't win in the same way, but you win regardless. And I would suggest that if you get what you want, you win in the way you wanted. And if you don't get what you want, you win in the way life wanted. And it happens that if you get what you want, you win in the way that life wanted and that you wanted. And in that moment, that matched. And if you don't get what you want, what I would suggest is you won in the way life wanted. You didn't want it, but life wanted it for you. And life, as you know, is like a super grandmaster chess player who thinks 29,000 moves ahead. There's no way we could ever outthink life, right? We think maybe 2 or 3 moves ahead, maybe 4 or 5 at best. And life is like, come on, like give me a break, give me a challenge here. I'm thinking like thousands of moves ahead. And so often, and you know this because this has happened in your life a number of times, you can think back to things that happened that you didn't want to happen. And in the moment you were like, fuck, that happened and I'm not happy about it. It could be like that, or it could be like, man, this was fucking devastating. And then maybe a couple days, maybe a few weeks, months, maybe years later, you look back, you think back and you're like, man, that was a fucking blessing. that was a fucking blessing to me. And if you told me that in the moment, like, hey, I know you think this is terrible, but this is a blessing, you could have never convinced me of that. But now I have hindsight. I see what happened as a result of that which I did not want as that unfolded. And I'm like, holy shit, that was a fucking blessing. So we often don't have that perspective when it happens. And I'd suggest part of it is because we actually don't think of it, because we're conditioned to think certain things are good and certain things are bad. And that's not necessarily the case. Some things that we think are bad turn out to be really good later when we have a different perspective. So bringing it back to when you get what you want, you win for obvious reasons. But when you get what you don't want, or when you don't get what you want, you also win. And it could be a series of it could be life unfolding in a certain way that you can't really predict yet, and then it keeps developing as a result of you not getting what you want, and then eventually you realize, fuck, it led to that, which was like so good for me. So there's that, and there's also this about equanimity. So whenever you don't get what you want, or you get what you don't want, either way, whenever that happens and you catch yourself thinking, fuck, like, fuck's sake, I got this shitty outcome, reframe it in your mind and think, if you get what you want, great, for obvious reasons. If you don't get what you want, you're getting equanimity training. You're getting equanimity training. Because how do you develop equanimity? You don't develop equanimity by watching an inspirational documentary about Buddhist monks and they're like so equanimous, or however you equanimous, and then you're like, oh man, like, yeah, I want to be like that, like that's me now. You don't get it like that. You don't really get it by saying affirmations to yourself. Maybe that can help. It can help guide your behavior, but that's not gonna like magically make you like a fucking enlightened equanimous, how the fuck do you say that, equanimous individual. You get it by practicing. And equanimity, I would suggest, is like a muscle. So on the very, it's like if you think about people at the gym, there are people who've been there for decades, and you see them, and some of them are just fucking massive, right? And they can lift 300 kilos really fucking strong because they've been practicing for ages, and they've been putting themselves in situations where they're lifting resistance and increasing the load. And then you have people who are brand new at the gym and they can't do that because they haven't had the opportunity to develop their muscle. And it's the same with equanimity. You're not just magically born and you're like, oh man, I can just handle everything in life with equanimity. Like difficult situations, like, yep, boom, like easy. I'm at peace regardless. Unless you're extremely lucky and you happen to have been born with the psychology that's favorable and conducive to that way of thinking, and you had like parents that were guiding you in that way, unless you're extremely lucky, then the likelihood is you're going to have to develop your equanimity muscles. And the best way to do that, by far, is to have things happen that you don't want to happen, or things that you want to happen not happen. We're a little bit like spoiled children. We're spoiled children of the universe, and the universe sometimes is like, man, I spoiled these motherfuckers. I've given them like so much, and like so many blessings, and like I want them to keep the blessings that they have, on earth and stuff. And at the same time, I want them to develop some equanimity. I want them to develop some character, some strength. So once in a while, I will not give them what they want, or I will give them what they don't want. Not because I want to punish them, because I want to see them grow. And I know as life that that's the absolute best way for them to develop equanimity, is to have something happen that they don't want, is to give them a difficult situation. That's really the only way you're going to develop equanimity, is by having a difficult situation. And then you learn to navigate it. And you learn to navigate it by embracing it. As hard as it is sometimes, as much as your mind is fighting it and being like, fuck no, I didn't want that to happen, as much as you were attached to something, and as uncomfortable as it can feel when it happens, it's a golden opportunity for you to develop equanimity. And then I'd say also that the most important word in that sentence is opportunity, because you won't develop opportunity by default when it happens. You can develop resentment instead, which many people do. But it doesn't have to happen like that. You can choose to think, okay, I didn't get what I want. Okay, so that means that I'm getting equanimity training. Let me not fucking waste this, right? Because I already didn't get what I want, and I wanted that. So I already didn't get that. So what am I gonna now not get what I want and fall into like a self-pity, resentment spiral, that fucking sucks. If I'm not getting what I want, let me at least develop some muscle. Let me at least develop some equanimity, because I didn't get what I want. Let me get something out of this. And life is not trying to like beat you down. It's not trying to punish you. Sometimes it's trying to give you exactly what you wanted, and sometimes it's trying to give you exactly what it knows you need, which happens to, in that moment, not align with what you thought you wanted. But it's the same like when you were a kid and you were like telling your parent, if you had your way with your parents as a child, if you think of the universe as your parent, as a child, if you had your way with your parents, they would feed you candy and sugar every day, and you'd be fucked up later on, because a child doesn't know. It always wants what it wants. It always wants what it wants. And we want what we want. So it's up to life sometimes to be like, this time you're eating your broccoli. You're eating your veggies, all right? And maybe right now you're resenting me, but later in the future you'll be like, fuck, thanks for giving me those veggies, because I'm healthier now. And you can become healthier, psychologically healthier, thanks to these things happening, even though they can suck in the moment. So because they suck, on top of it, get something out of it. Get something out of it. You already didn't get what you want. So now the way you respond is your choice. You can either make it worse for yourself and not learn anything from it, or you can be like, all right, I didn't get what I want. Well, I'm fucking taking my equanimity training then. Let's do it. And how do you do it? So the way you do it is really just by embracing it. And it sounds simplistic, but I'm also no expert, but this is the way that I'm learning to do it. Is when something happens and I don't want it to happen, then I do what I can to be extra mindful of what's happening. Because the natural tendency will be for my mind to resist it and be like, fuck's sake, and blah, blah, blah. And the natural tendency will be for me to become less mindful when that happens. And so what I'm focusing on doing is becoming more mindful. And it's not comfortable, because when this happens, when you don't get what you want or you get what you didn't want, your mind's resisting a lot. And as you know, that's not a comfortable state to be in. At the same time, that's exactly where the growth happens. It's like saying, when I'm doing my last rep at the gym, it's not comfortable. Well, that's the rep that's building the muscle. If you only did, like, let's say you can do a max of 15 and you only do 2 and you feel comfortable, you don't grow any muscle. But on the 15th rep, when your like muscles are fucking hurting, that's the rep that's giving you the most. So I would say tune into your mind and tune into your body when these things happen, and embrace everything. Embrace your total experience. Embrace the thoughts, be okay with them, and just observe them. And just observe what's happening in your body and embrace that. And the more you do that, the more you're developing your capacity to handle difficult situations. And if you don't do that, then what you'll do by default is you will escape yourself. You become less mindful. You'll distract yourself. You'll be like, fuck, and you will not connect to your experience. And when you do that, you become weaker. The next time it happens, you'll react just the same way. You'll be just as, you will be no more prepared to handle life's difficult situations. And as you know, life is full of difficult situations. You're going to have plenty more difficult situations for the rest of your life. You can't avoid that. It's a part of life. So I would say, do what you can to become better at dealing with difficult situations, because they're going to fucking happen for the rest of your life. So we can choose to be like, well, I'm going to resent them every time they happen because life shouldn't give me difficult situations. Or we could be like, all right, life's hard. Life's full of difficult situations. I'm not going to stop them. I'm not going to hate life into stopping those situations for me until it's like, oh, he's like so resentful of me. Let me give him an easy time. Life is going to keep giving you difficult situations. So I say, do what you can to get better at handling them. And the best way I know as of now to get better at handling difficult situations is to tune into yourself, to actually do what's counterintuitive in the moment, and to connect with yourself even more when that's happening. And the more you do that, the more you increase your capacity to do that. If you connect with yourself in a difficult situation, next time it happens, it will be easier for you because you've just developed your muscle. So in closing, if you get what you want, you win. If you don't get what you want, you win. You get equanimity training, and you also get whatever life's got planned for you with its 19,000 moves ahead. So either way, you win, whether it's by getting what you want or it's with equanimity training. So life is a gym, and I didn't plan my outro here. Life is a gym, and equanimity is your muscle. Yeah. So start developing your equanimity muscles. If you don't get what you want or you get what you didn't want, you have equanimity training. That's it.